Hey everyone, this is Nick. In this video I want to show you one of my recent custom orders. This time it is not a cutting board but a display art piece made in the same style as my regular boards. It is done in end grain. One of the main advantages of working with end grain is the grain direction. In this case, it allows you to create fairly small and delicate details without worrying that they will break. I always start by flattening both sides of the blank, and only after that do I move on to machining the project. Recently, I received a question asking whether it is possible to flatten just one side and then go straight to machining. My answer is that yes, it is possible, but it is not recommended, and here is why. When you flatten the blank on both sides, you can choose the better side as the face side. Very often, even with premium grade wood, there can still be hidden defects that only become visible after surfacing. The second important point is stability. It is critical that the blank does not move or rock during machining, so it is much better when both sides are flat. After flattening one side, I remove all the chips and then move on to flattening the second side. So now the second side is done, and it actually turned out better than the first one. At this point, I can move on to machining the project. For most of my work, I mainly use two bits. The first one is a 1/8 inch upcut end mill. The second one is a new bit from CIC Workshop, model TBN62124. I absolutely love this new bit. It has great cutting quality, and on top of that, it is cheaper than the previous bit I was using. Now a few words about the design. When the client reached out to me, he explained that this piece was for his brother, who is a dedicated fisherman. He mentioned that his brother has a favorite lure and that he mainly fishes for sea trout. He also sent me several photos as references. I did try to find a ready-made design online, but I could not find anything suitable. So I had to take several real photos along with a number of illustrations and combine them into something of my own. In the end, I came up with this fish paired with this specific lure. I tried to get as close to the original as possible, although I am still in the process of learning and improving this workflow. The pocket is fully machined, and the last toolpath cuts the outline of the board. By the way, the board size is 19 by 12 by 2 inches. Now I can cut the inlay. The inlay will be made from American hard white maple. And this is my favorite combination, walnut and maple. The inlay turned out really nice and clean. All that is left is a quick air blow and some minor trimming on the tips. For some reason, this is one of my favorite parts of the process. The main thing is not to trim off too much. After checking the dry fit, I can move on to applying the glue. Normally, I would split an inlay of this size into several layers, but in this case it did not really make sense. The most important thing is to spread the glue thoroughly and stay within that 10-minute window. But in reality, even the most complex design rarely takes more than about 7 minutes. Although sometimes it honestly feels like I have been spreading glue for 20 minutes already. But then I look at the camera footage and realize that it actually took much less time. The glue has dried and now I can remove the top of the inlay. At this point the board is still slightly warped, so after trimming it down I will let it sit for about 12 more hours. Usually during that time the board becomes flat again and then I can move on to sanding. This is the moment when I just stand there and watch the inlay slowly reveal itself as the CNC cuts the top layer away. Right away, I check the quality of the inlay. Even though I have not had any unpleasant surprises in a long time, The quality of the inlay is always my top priority. Everything has to fit tight and look clean. Now I can move on to sanding. As always, I start with 80 grit and finish with 400 grit. Alright, the board is sanded really well and ready for finish. Normally I finish my boards with mineral oil and beeswax, but this one is a display art board, so I wanted something with more protection. For this project I chose an epoxy resin with an extended pot life. First I apply it evenly and spread it over all sides, so it can soak in and seal the pores. I usually do 2 or 3 coats of epoxy. After that I sand it back down to a flat, even surface, and then I apply a fairly thick coat of polyurethane. I like a satin finish because it gives a rich, matte look. If you know another good way to protect a piece like this, drop it in the comments. I definitely want to learn more about this because there might be simpler or better ways to protect wood for this type of project. While the board is drying, I will also cut a stand for it in a minimalist style. Alright, the project is finished and the board turned out absolutely perfect. The inlay is flawless. It fits extremely tight with no visible seams, exactly the way I like it. It was a real pleasure working on this project, especially knowing that it was a fully custom piece and truly one of a kind. I also want to say a quick thank you for all your comments. I always read them and I genuinely appreciate the support. At the moment, I do not always have enough time to reply to each one. But if you have any questions about inlay work, or if you have taken my course, feel free to email me directly. My email is listed in the video description. I always respond to emails. I organize them by priority and reply based on urgency. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.